Here at the Chiropractor's Edge, we are always bringing on the best doctors in the industry, and we bring to you one of the greatest chiropractors in the world, hailing from San Juan, Puerto
Wow.
Rico. Carlos Hayes. Carlos, welcome to the show.
Hello, Jake. Thank you so much for that introduction. I needed to hear those words today. Wow, so uplifting. It's an honor to hear those words from you, but we just love chiropractic and we love to work hard.
You know, Carlos and I met several years ago. He was one of our keynote speakers at an event for the Berkshires in Puerto Rico. And I'll tell you, it was captivating. You know, Carlos, when I think of you, I think, you are a master public speaker, number one, and that's a skill set. I'm sure you have some talent, some born talent, but that's a skill set you've cultivated to be able to public speak. And when I saw you speaking one-to-one, you had that same energy, you had that same focus as you did when you were talking to 300 people. And that's a skill you have as public speaking, which we'll talk about a little bit today. You are a new patient generation king. You are a master at bringing on new patients. And in the green room, you and I were talking about something that you and I both do and that you are a master at, and you've done for 27 years, and that is the spinal screening. And there are different things that get a bad rap, but I always follow the money and the agenda. When someone says, don't do this anymore, I look at it and say, oh gosh, why? Like, I've built my practice on this and I have a very successful practice. And so I know you just came from Mexico. What were you doing in Mexico?
I was, among other things, I was teaching screenings. I have some good friends in Mexico that are beginning to do screenings, something relatively new in Mexico. If not new in time, new in volume, because Mexico is so huge and there's so few chiropractors. So there are many areas where screenings have never been done. And I have a good friend, Miguel Guevara, who does them for his clinics. He sells the posture, the super sleek, nice looking portable posture machines, highly recommended. And I offered to him, I said, listen, let's put together a seminar. He got the people together, and I went on a Sunday and I taught full morning. We did 8 in the morning to 1 p.m. on screenings. It went great. We got enough time to practice and everything.
That's amazing. Why do you think it is that something that, I mean, obviously, I divulged to you that when, before the show began, that when I got out of school, you use your talents as a chiropractor, and you said something very powerful. Chiropractic is an introduction. Chiropractic school is an introduction, from what we learned as far as like the philosophy of chiropractic, what chiropractic really is, as our technique, our business, our mindset. It's just an introduction. And unless we're feeding ourselves and going to seminars and diving into those things, we lose that. And I remember getting out of school, looking at my talent, saying, hey, I thought I invented spinal screenings when clearly I didn't. But it's something that I felt I had a talent at. And why do you think it is, Carlos, that in our profession, when something works so well, why do you think there's such a push to stop doing something that works so well, even though it may be a little bit old?
You know what? Even though Puerto Rico is a part of the United States and everything that happens in the United States eventually hits Puerto Rico, I'm going to talk about my experience in Puerto Rico because I have not done screenings in the continental U.S. I think that most people that give screenings a bad rap, they tried it and it didn't work. Because if there's an activity that you can just spend one afternoon at the park and come back with 15 new patients, how many times do you want to go to the park? When do you stop going to the park? So they either did it and didn't work because they didn't learn it properly, or they're trying to sell you something else.
Yes.
Which happens. My screenings are something very basic. They're super basic in their presentation, but I find them, I've been learning screenings, I've been practicing screening, I've been improving our screening scripts for 27 years from the very beginning. And I share you this short story. We in Puerto Rico, we have a saying that says, "No entraban ni las moscas." Not even the flies would come into my practice. That's how empty it was.
Wow.
Yep. At the time, at the same time that I was trying to develop my practice, and not even the flies would come into my office, a friend of mine who came from Miami to live in Puerto Rico, no family, no friends, broken Spanish that he knew. He was seeing 60 and 70 patients a day, a couple of miles away from my office. The difference, he had a coach and I did not. His coach his name is Anthony Tremaine. He's a chiropractor out of Australia. I was lucky enough for Anthony to come to Puerto Rico and teach back then. This is 26 years ago. And everything he taught in that seminar that we should be doing, I was not. And everything that he taught us not to do is exactly what I was doing in practice at that time. I signed the contract. I signed the 3-year contract to put things in perspective for the new generation. The way we did coaching back then between Puerto Rico and Australia was via fax. I will send him a question via fax and he will answer the question via fax, because even phone calls were so expensive. That was just unbearable to call Australia back then.
What a creative way, though, to use technology for the era. That's just a testament of being smart back then.
It's called hunger, my friend. It's called hunger. When you're hungry or lonely, you do anything to survive.
I love that.
Yeah, it's called hunger, of course. Had I been comfortable in practice back then, seeing 20, 30 patients, do you think I would have gone through the hassle of faxing back and forth? Of course not. Right. I was just dead on interested in learning what he had to teach. So he came during his trip to Puerto Rico. He visited my practice and told me, "Carlos, listen, there's a bunch of things I need to teach you, but I cannot teach you one of them unless there's warm bodies in this office." True. So we need to teach you how to bring warm bodies. And the first event was a screening. So he had very good scripts. And we went and it was a success. We've never done a bad screening. That
is amazing.
So the reason I tell you that story is because we've never done a bad screening, because we learned it from a pro from the first time. We didn't go there and try to reinvent it. I can guarantee you, had I tried it by myself, I would have failed. The Carlos that I know clearly, who Carlos was 28 years ago, would have failed miserably at a screening. The first reason to fail was that I was frightened to death to be in the floor of the shopping center. I was just doing it out of pure hunger.
Wow. And so you've developed some great relationships now for your screenings, where there's a very prominent shopping center close to where you practice, and you've set up a contract with them now.
Yes.
How did you make that happen?
We've been dealing with it's one of the biggest shopping centers in the Caribbean. It's called Plaza Las Americas.
Yeah.
To put in perspective how large it is, it represents the whole island. I learned from a person that I know in marketing and statistics that when you hire a statistics company to do a study for you in Puerto Rico, if you know what you're doing in the contract, you have to put that they cannot go to Plaza Las Americas. Because what they do is, instead of going throughout the island, they just go to Plaza Las Americas, and statistically is an accurate measurement of what's going on in the island of Puerto Rico, just to go there.
Wow.
But then they charge you thousands and thousands of dollars to do an island-wide study, and all they do is they go to Plaza. So they know the trick, and now they put in contracts that you cannot do the statistics at Plaza Las Americas.
Wow.
So if you buy more than 5 events, you get a discount. So we sign 6 events for a year. We make an agreement with the shopping center. We have some colleagues like Dr. Jose Salgado, Sebastian Bonin, Eddie Diaz, Dr. Lee Cardona, Hernan Lopez. They're friends and colleagues in Chiropractic, and we share the time and the space and the investment. and it works. We divide everything in half days, and somebody gets 3 half days. I get 4 half days. The other guy gets 1 half day, and we cover the week, and everybody's happy, and we turn people onto chiropractic.
See, and so you've taught some incredible principles right there, Carlos. You taught number one, you have to have a mentor. The most successful people on earth, the most successful chiropractors, doctors, entrepreneurs, dentists, lawyers, everyone has a mentor. You need a mentor. I don't know why it is that, we were just talking to Dr. Grant Dennis, president of the IFCO, and he said, why is it that we fear so much of having a mentor? So many people think in chiropractic that, if it's not coming straight from my heart, then I'm going to I might appear as less than. So I love that thought that you taught, that you get a mentor. The second thing I love what you just shared is you understand the power of chiropractic, and the greed is not there. To say that you open it up to several other colleagues, and I know you don't view them as competition. I know that you view them as, we're going to bless the lives of chiropractors.
We're all in the same town.
Isn't that amazing?
We're all in the same town. Yeah.
See, that's huge.
The practice, if you know how to do a screening well, and you go to a good spot, you cannot handle the volume generated after 7 days of being in the screening.
Not at all.
You just can't handle it. So it has to be shared. And we do it 6 times a year, a minimum of 6 times a year. So we like to stay motivated. I don't want to burn my team a week in the screening, so when we go to the next one, we are all burned and we don't even want to be there. So I'd rather go in small chunks through the year than do one big one and everybody get burned.
I was trying to calculate, just how many people we've brought in that lives have been changed from spinal screenings, and it's over 3,000 active patients from spinal screenings. And because of that, over 2 million that I can calculate directly, over $2 million in revenue. So lives changed and revenue from these fantastic events. And
I'm gonna, now you made me curious. I can't
even imagine what yours is.
I want to calculate it. One thing that comes to mind is that one of the frustrations that some people encounter in screening is having too high expectations.
Okay.
I was taught very wisely, I was taught by Tremaine back then, the rule of 3s. You have to talk to 3 people for 1 to sign up. You have to sign up 3 people for 1 to show up at the office. I think those are conservative numbers. It can, and it is a lot better than that, but I think that's the numbers you need to approach the event with. Because if you don't know those numbers, and you talk to 100 people during the week, and you set up 75 appointments, and at the end of the game, you only started 15 new patients, it can be very frustrating and very understandable so. But number one, there are 15 new patients that were not going to come to your practice had you not done the event. And number two, you had 75 people that know about you, know where you are, got to talk to you, got your business card, and so get the name of your practice is out in the community, and it always works. Of course, I'm using very conservative numbers, but the truth is that a lot of people reach the screenings with such high expectations that the volume at the screening justifies the expectations, the number of appointments justify the expectations, but then they get the reality of marketing, and is that not necessarily everybody's going to start care, and that burns out a lot of people that approach screenings wrong.
Right. We have to understand, like, what's the power of a lead? When we look at spending our time and our money on other things, you have to understand the power of what is that actually valued and the expectations of that. Mm-hmm. So many doctors spend thousands and thousands of dollars and thousands of hours on things that don't yield such high results, yet they do it because that's just what they were just taught. So this is this is just one of the many things you do to navigate that. One of the other things that I love about you is you have a big heart. If you love people, you're a leader within chiropractic all over the world. Again, you were just in Mexico a few days ago, but I love your love for people and the fact that And the first time I heard you say this, I got it. So many doctors and chiropractors, when they are with a patient, so you've got the patient into your doors, you got a warm body right now, and maybe a couple flies, and you have them in your practice. But a lot of docs, they don't know how to do a proper exam. They don't know how to do a proper day one. And what it is, they literally, and being able to hear people, that you're a master of this, listening to people is so important, but not letting them dictate the encyclopedia of what they think they're there for. Now, we always want to sell people what they want, educate them what they can have, but a lot of times people are going to talk about things that may not be relevant, and they're going to guide it. And if this is the person that has been to hundreds of or not hundreds, but other chiropractors, and they said chiropractic failed me, well, that's why they got off to it on their expectation. You're a master at guiding the conversation, especially when people are talking or getting off course. How did you master this? So kind of share with us when someone is going off that page. Someone is going off, how do you get them back on page and focus on chiropractic?
I'm gonna give full credit to somebody very special to me, and then I'll tell you some other things. I begin to forget what year was this. This must have been in the 90s. Probably early 2000. There was Dr. Charles Ward. You might have heard of or know Dr. Charles. Dr. Charles Ward and Dr. Eddie Cohen were partners then. They were coming. Yes. They had a group of clients in Puerto Rico. I was one of those clients. And I clearly remember and I say they, and I hate it too. When I'm at a seminar, I hate it when people in the audience start asking me curves. By curves, I mean that things that never happen in the practice, but they just want to shoot to see if I can give you an answer to that. And they were very adamant and very strict that we did not ask curves. Like as soon as anybody would ask a curve, they would say that's a curve. We agreed that we were gonna, and they would stick to the basics the way it should be. Okay. So somebody asked that question: what do you do when a patient talks too much? And they said, that's a curve. Let's stick to the basics. And the whole room exploded. The whole room went, no, that's not a curve. And they said, really? Is it that bad here in Puerto Rico? And everybody at the same time said, yes. Wow. Puerto Ricans are talkers. We are we are natural born talkers. And so people tend to talk more in Puerto Rico than in the United States. So it's a bigger problem. So he taught us, Dr. Ward was the one who gave us the solution. He said, you listen, intently, you listen to the patient, because there might be a lot of valuable information that he's giving you. And when you realize that one of two things happens is that you cannot memorize more that he had already given you, or he's so sidetracking that it's not helping you consult, you very politely stop the person and you tell them, Jake, hold on, Jake. I want to make sure I understand every word you're telling me. Let me make sure I understood what you said. So you're telling me that your head has been hurting for 13 years. You've been to the chiropractor, you've been to the medical doctor, you received yoga and acupuncture, and nothing from this has helped you correct the cause. Did I understand you correctly? And the person is going to say yes. And then you shoot another question. He who makes the questions dominates the talk. Yes. So what you're trying to do, there's a huge amount of things that are going on there. Number one of the basic, there are physiological necessities like rest, elimination, excretion, alimentation. But there's also emotional necessities of the human being. One of the most important necessities of the human being is being heard. So by telling the person, hold on, I want to make sure I heard everything you're telling me and I understand everything you're telling me. You're telling me, listen, I care about you and I wanna listen to you. Another basic necessity of the human being emotions is validation. So it's not only telling the patient, hold on, I want to make sure I got everything correctly, number one, Number two, you have to repeat everything back to them word by word with their vocabulary in the same order that they told them. And at the end, the golden bow is you have to ask them, did I understood you correctly? If you don't ask that question, there's no validation. That is the question that certifies the validation.
You know, that principle is so important. You made it sound, because you're a master, so simple. So many people come in and they'll talk and talk and talk, and you can glean the important things. So you probably didn't repeat everything they just said that wasn't applicable. You shared the things that were definitely applicable, but you used their words. The power of using your patient's own words. If they come in and say, it's like a knife twisting and stabbing me. If you go, okay, so it's sharp, huh? You just invalidated what they said.
Of course not.
And they're going, you're taking them back to their world of when it was sharp, twisting, and stabbing, right? That is so powerful. Yeah. And then asking, did I hear you? Did I understand that correctly?
I got two things for you. I got one thing that we learned from Dr. Ward at the time, and we improved later on. Extensive entrance questionnaires trigger the talk. The guy comes for headaches, and then you hand him a questionnaire that asks him about health history, car accidents, motor falls, other conditions, surgeries, medications, and all that reading and answering in the entrance form triggers all the talk. It makes sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
If your entrance form, all it had was what brings you in, and the patient writes headaches, I guarantee you the talk will be a lot less.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, and then somebody says, well, Carlos, we need all that other information for the record. And yes, we do need it, but it's nowhere written that it needs to be answered at the beginning of the consultation.
Yes.
You can do a simple entrance form with just what brings you in. You can do your full consult, evaluation, x-rays, studies, palpation, next appointment, coordinate that you make sure they come with their spouse, that you charge for the day services. And after all is said and done, you sit the patient down in the waiting area and you tell them, Doctor, hey, Jake, before you leave, the doctor would like you to fill this out. And that's the extended questionnaire. With all the accident history and all the medication and surgery and other conditions that triggers all these thoughts. And then, to make matters more complicated, let's say you and I don't know each other. We've never seen each other. You don't know anything of me. And we meet for the first time in a seminar. And I just, right off the bat, start talking to you as if I knew you. What's going on there at a deeper level?
It's people want to be, like you said, I want to be seen and heard. I want people to understand who I am. And when people ask questions about me, people love hearing their own name and they love talking about themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing that we don't know, we need to be told by other experts, because I didn't know this till 3 weeks ago, is that when people talk a lot to you, it means that they trust you and they like you.
I love that.
So big mistake to interrupt abruptly that patient that is talking to you too much. You want to lose a patient's trust. You want to lose a human connection with somebody. Be nasty and cut them while they're opening their heart to you because they trust you and they like you.
Yes.
So, all of a sudden, we all know that we want to make sure our patients trust us and like us so that they convert into patients and they can improve their health with our care. Yet, when we see it, we don't know it. And one of the evident pieces of information that the person trusts you is that they're talking a lot to you.
That's powerful. So powerful. How many you know, we see this in our families. You know, we see that, you know, and we had a conversation the other night at the dinner table, and our youngest, our 9-year-old, was sharing something, and he had kind of cut off Big Brother. So I was like, hey, just one moment, hang on. You know, Big Brother's talking. Let's hear him. You know, then because I want to be able to hear you too. So give us just a moment. We're having, you know, and so we heard, and then I went back to him, and the first thing he said was, "Oh no, it's okay. I don't want to share," because he kind of felt bad for interrupting, and then he was in that moment. But because I said, no, I really want to hear. So, and I used the words he started with. So you said the day started awesome. You were at the playground. Then what happened? And to see immediately him go, "Oh, this is what happened." This is a truth. You just taught that truth that we need to be applying, that sometimes we don't apply in our own families.
Yes.
You know, these are truths that people want to be seen and heard, and there's a way to be respectful with that. But I love that concept, and I don't think I've ever thought about it in those exact words, that they trust you, they like you. That's why they're talking to you.
That's why they're talking to you. If they didn't trust you, or they didn't like you, you've done this. Have you been in front of a patient, Jake, and you have to? It's like pulling teeth to do the consult.
Yes.
It's the opposite. They don't trust you and they don't like you. And it's evident.
You know, and there's a lot of, that's so healthy just to be able to say that. Some people have such pride. Oh, no, everyone likes me. You know, I mean, obviously to be in front of you, there's a lot of trust that's had to happen to some degree. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be people that don't want to be there. Their spouse is making them be there. They're scared. Yeah. You're the 15th person they've seen. They have to repeat the story again, right? Yeah. But when you use those talents that you just shared, using their words, their vocabulary, calling them by name. Tell me about the power of names, Carlos. Why is it important to call people by the name they desire?
This is very simple. What was the first word you heard when you were born? Your name. Your name, and those were this might sidetrack us a little bit, but we had a patient that had a kid, very neurologically compromised kid with cerebral palsy. The kid's name was Pedro, and when spending time with their parents afterwards, they told us that the nurses told them that the kids that have that kids that are born with a health compromise, that have complicated names, are most likely not to survive. That those that have simple names like Carlos, Jose, Pedro, and I asked him, so because he said, "Oh, but the kid's name is Pedro," and I asked him, "So is there a Pedro in the family?" And they tell me, "No." Let me tell you why we named him Pedro. He was so compromised that the nurses came to us and they chose that the name. I guess the original name was a complicated name. So the name, we use the name throughout. We also ask for permission. We use the strategy of asking for permission. It is not almost awkward. It is awkward because nobody is used to being asked for permission. Like your medical doctor doesn't tell you, "I'm about to take your blood pressure. Can I?" You know, we do that. You know, "I'm about to palpate your spine. Is that okay?" And we ask for permission. "I'd like to ask you some more questions about that headache. May I?" And they ask, and the reason is because every time you ask for permission and the person says yes, they're opening up.
Yes,
they're allowing you into their space to make those questions.
You hit that. I mean, you guys, that is so critical what he just shared. That right there is to ask for permission. So let's see, what is it? Monday, we had a new patient that comes in, and you could tell this lady was exhausted. She was exhausted. She's been dealing with some major health issues for several years. She'd seen several practitioners. She'd been stretching. She was told by her doctor that stretching was the answer. She goes, "Yeah, and I feel better, but I still have these main problems." And as we were going through, I called her by name, and I said, "Okay, so may I ask you another question?" You know what she said to me? She goes, "Seriously? Please." No one asks questions. They just prescribe. Or they literally, I had a chiropractor who, and I know the chiropractor, great chiropractor. He's busy. Literally goes, he didn't ask me anything. He just laid me down and said, relax, relax, relax. Boom. And he said, and he got my neck and I think I maybe felt a little better, but man, it hurt really bad. But she goes, please ask me questions. So I would use her, so I would use her words, then I'd ask a question. And then I'd say, may I ask another question? Yes, please. Okay. And I would go. And to see by the end of that, she said, okay, I know this is my place. I know I feel I have so much hope now. I have so much hope. And that principle of asking for permission before you palpate an x-ray, I mean, how powerful, because as many times as they can say yes to you.
It is awkward. It is awkward to ask. It is awkward to the patient. But sometimes the patient might look at you and go like, yes. But that yes is very important.
Yes.
There is a concept that we should have been taught and we were never taught, and very few people know about it. If we ask people what's pedagogy, I hope am I pronouncing that word correctly?
Say it again.
Pedagogy or pedagogy, the science of teaching.
Oh gosh, I'll be the first to tell you I'm not the smartest guy in the room when it comes to that kind of stuff. So you very well, I would trust that you're probably saying it right.
So I'm gonna, I'm Puerto Rican. I have the license to continue talking as if it was correct.
That's right.
Pedagogy, when you ask people what is pedagogy, they tell you that is the science of teaching. And that is only half correct. Pedagogy is the science of teaching children.
Wow.
So we go into kindergarten and we learn through a pedagogy model that goes throughout middle school, high school, college, and chiropractic school. So the fact that you're an adult in chiropractic school doesn't mean that the instructors are teaching you as an adult. They're still teaching you utilizing pedagogy techniques or tools. You with me?
I'm with you.
So now you graduate and you want to become a master educator, a master communicator, and you're talking to people that are of what average age? 30 plus?
Mm-hmm.
And they're adults. But they're not adults in a school setting. They're adults in the real life setting. So pedagogy rules do not apply.
Wow.
The way you were taught throughout your lifetime up till chiropractic school you cannot use those strategies to teach adults. It's called andragogy.
Wow.
Andragogy is the science of teaching adults.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
It's so deep. Not because I said it, because I only learned it 4 weeks ago. But it is deep, my friend. It is so deep. I'll share a few points with you, and they all go back to asking for permission. You can teach the alphabet to one of your kids through punishment and reward. You can use punishment and reward, and the kid will learn the alphabet, not an adult. Adults do not respond to punishment and reward. So when an adult doesn't understand chiropractic in the office, and we start making them feel bad because they haven't learned chiropractic, what are we doing to that relationship? Mm-hmm. Boom. A kid, how old are your kids, Jake?
So they're 15, 14, and 9. 13 and 9, almost 14.
The 14-year-old one is getting out of the curve. The 9-year-old one, I can bet you can explain chiropractic to him. He can go across the room and go tell grandma the chiropractic story like a little parrot. He doesn't even understand what he's saying, but he's able to hear it and repeat it word by word to grandma on the other room. Do we agree that they have at that age, they have that ability?
Absolutely.
Adults don't. Adults learn in little chunks and bites of information, repeat it consistently throughout time. So you get in front of a chiropractic poster and you start telling the chiropractic story to this patient, and it takes you a minute and a half, 2 minutes to explain it. You lost them after the 15th second. So you got to have a 30-second or less chiropractic explanation if you want to get a little bit of it in the on their brain.
Yes.
And then repeat it throughout time. The one thing that I love, I took Daniel Bay's course. Fantastic, powerful stuff. And one of the things I was recently studying even deeper the course, and chiropractic is explained once, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Chiropractic is explained in a very short manner. I think it's brilliant stuff. Before the patient leaves your office, he has heard the chiropractic story in little bits and pieces repeatedly throughout the process in a very tasteful manner. And the other thing is that adults need to understand the why before they're able to learn something new. And that's why pre-framing is such a powerful tool when doing consultations or report of findings or in day-to-day care. Pre-frame. That's probably one of the keys to communicating with adults. You know, like, for example, you're going to do share this. You're going to ask, the patient has low back pain. You're about to ask him if the low back pain causes cramping in the legs at night. Fair question. If you just shoot the question because the patient has back pain, the patient doesn't know the why. He could care less why you're asking. He's going to give you an answer, and that's going to be the end of that.
Right.
But if you pre-frame the question, you go to the chiropractic poster and you tell them, listen, you see these nerves down here in your low back? Those are the ones that control your low back, and they're associated to that low back pain. But those nerves also go down to your gluteus, your legs, and your feet. That's why that's why now I ask you, is that low back pain related to any cramping at night in the legs? Now, when the patient tells you, yes, I have cramping in the legs, that patient or that adult now can connect the cramping of the legs to the subluxation in the low back.
Yes.
If not, it's you're just talking, and it just doesn't work. So big, and finally, the strategy to ask for permission to talk when talking to adults is a very, very powerful strategy to get them to get focused with you and allow you in.
That is so that is so uniquely powerful, that concept. A lot of docs, the masters may not, even though they may not realize they're doing that, most do it on purpose. Some may do it, stumble upon it by accident. But if you just explain chiropractic in one, if you're doing a huge presentation, that's why in school we had to do 2-hour exams and 30 minutes were on chiropractic education. And you would just see the people in front of us like, well, I'm here in the student clinic because it's cheaper. Do I really have to, and you just see people just almost snoozing, and you're like, okay, hey, wake up. I'm going to tell you how cool subluxation is now. No, because you're putting your agenda first. You're not putting them. Now, it's important that we sprinkle that. One of the things that we love, utilizing what you just said, when we do that multiple times, we'll also take it a little bit of a step further. And as we look at their family, so if they're there for themselves, we focus on them. But people are always concerned about their family as well. We'll say, okay, so we explain how the body works, how the body dysfunctions, where things go when they get connected. So they're like, oh yeah, doc, so yeah, my hand goes numb too. Oh, hey, this happens. But we'll also say they have a 5-year-old daughter. And I'll say, hey, so this issue in adults can cause these issues. In kids, 5-year-olds, it can cause bedwetting.
Love it.
And they go, oh, that makes sense, doc. I got to get my daughter in to see you. Do you have availability today, tomorrow?
Wow.
And then that starts to happen. But because you've pre-framed it and they've understood it, you've said it in a way that it's about them And he said it in a way that they understand using their words. That's powerful.
It's a whole different way of communicating and of science, of educational science. Something was going through my mind. Wow, it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. It was along the line of patient. Yeah, I know. Now I know.
Boom.
We've all heard about visit-to-visit education. I think that is hands down the most underutilized strategy that in chiropractic. I think a good visit-to-visit education program beats any dinner talk, any health talk, any group report. Nothing can beat a good visit-to-visit, a well-structured, well-designed, and strictly applied visit-to-visit education system in our practice. One of the excuses that our clients have not to do visit-to-visit education well is that the patients start complaining and they start saying, "Are you going to explain that to me again, doc?" You know what? Now that we know andragogy, when the adult tells you, "Are you going to explain that to me again, doc?" is the mark of success. It means that finally you repeat it enough times for the patient to understand it, and they just want to reject you repeating it again. So don't take that as rejection. Take it as a good mark that you've finally done a difference in that adult's brain.
Yes. We were talking about digestion the other day, and we have an open adjustment area, and the patient next door says, "Hey, doc," she goes, "I'm pretty sure I'm subluxated, here and here, because you taught me that these areas control digestion, and I've had a lot of acid reflux and heartburn, and will you check to see if I'm subluxated there?"
Wow. How
and
powerful.
The next patient says, "Wow, sounds like this patient really knows her body really well." She goes, "Because you taught me that," and then she went on a whole different subject. And so the conversation went from room to room to room based off what the patients were saying. And it was quiet. And we have a private area where we can do private stuff, but everyone talks out there. So that you're absolutely right. We have 24 sets of education at a minimum, and we're always talking chiropractic. We always do a touch and tell.
Yes.
Touch and tell is huge. We do anchoring and all that, and I know this is what you're a master at. And Carlos, we could go on for so long. I want people to be able to understand who you are and to be able to learn from you as well. Again, you are a master public speaker. You're a master at new patient generation. You're a master of being able to help and hear the patient, helping the doctor hear the patient. I'd like to put a link below so our listeners can listen to you, so the chiropractors can find out how they can be even better chiropractors, even greater communicators, even greater listeners, even greater spinal screeners, so they can become more effective. Because number one, you guys, like Carlos said, when you have tried something and didn't work, what did Clarence Gonstead teach with chiropractic? Well, don't blame chiropractic, blame the application of it.
Yes.
If you didn't do a spinal screening right, or a health talk right, or a day one right, don't blame that. Blame maybe the application of it. Yeah. Where did you get it from? Did you get it from something that from someone who's failed at it, or did you get it from a master? Carlos is the master at teaching these things.
Thank you.
So Carlos, we're going to put it below, but what are the best ways we can contact you? And those who want to learn from you, how do we do that?
It's going to be Facebook, Quiro, spelled in Spanish, QuiroHub, QuiroHub.
Yes.
I am fully bilingual, as you can tell, but I teach in Spanish. I'm more than happy to teach in English. When invited, I always say yes. I can teach in English anywhere in the world. My niche or my content is created for the Spanish-speaking chiropractor.
And we have a lot of Spanish speakers here.
Yes. When you go visit my site, you're going to find that everything is in Spanish. So don't be surprised. And from there, you can find the link to my website. And I invite you to visit the blog. Every time I find a great story that can help motivate chiropractors, I create a blog post for it and I post it. There are also concepts and ideas and videos of me in different presentations. There's a lot of wealth in the blog in that website. It's QuiroHub.com, just the same, QuiroHub.com or QuiroHub in Facebook.
Yeah, awesome. So QuiroHub.com. Carlos, thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks for sharing your passion. You are so successful. And again, I'm sure we could talk more about it, but chiropractic has afforded you to enjoy some of the most beautiful luxuries of life. I know you love to sail, and seeing at different parts of the world that your sailboat is taking you to is so wonderful. But it's afforded you because you live a principled chiropractic lifestyle. You love the principles of chiropractic. You fight for it, and you are a master at it. So you guys, if you are struggling,
blessed. We are all blessed by being involved in chiropractic.
Yes. If flies won't go into your practice, if you can't get warm bodies in, please follow Carlos. Follow the principles we teach here, and it will bless your life so you can do the things you want to do. You can become an even better chiropractor. Thank you so much, Carlos.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you so much for the invitation.